yet another way to bring the benefits of fair trade to farmers around the world. So, as you all know, fair trade is all about finding an easy way for us to connect, right? An easy way for us to lend a hand to hardworking farming families around the world. Farmers on the mountaintop in Bolivia growing quinoa, farmers in the valleys of the Shire in Malawi. How cool is that? They live in the Shire, right? Growing sugar cane. Hardworking families who don't want our charity, right? Hardworking families who just want a decent price for the great products that they deliver. That's what fair trade is all about. And it's about us finding our voice and connecting in new ways, through our coffee, through our bananas, through our sugar cane, through our chocolate bars, and now through our fair flips, and our vodka, our goji berry liqueur. So I'm so excited about this new step and these new partners that we have in the FAIR.spirits company. And since I know you all know about fair trade and what it's all about, I won't belabor the model. Instead, I just want to share a couple of quick stories. Because I actually know a bit about the groups that you all partnered with to bring these amazing products to market. So the sugar in the goji berry liqueur comes from a sugar co-op in Malawi, in a valley that's really called the Shire. If you ever read Fellowship of the Rings, the Shire is the place where it all began. So in the Shire Valley, people are poor because they sell their sugar to the local middlemen. And this is the truth all around the world. Small family farmers who don't have access to the market, who are forced to sell in the local market at very low prices, and as a result are locked into poverty. So this group of 1,000 sugarcane farmers came together and started selling on fair trade terms. And the first thing they did with their money was they dug wells. Why did they dig wells? Well, something that we all take for granted, clean water, they didn't have. And as a result, cholera and dysentery were huge sources of sickness and death in those communities. The first thing they did with their fair trade premiums, they dug wells. And they've dug 10 village wells so far, and as you can imagine, health indicators, especially among kids, are way up. That's what fair trade is. So then we have this amazing co-op in the highlands of Bolivia. Quechua indigenous farmers who grow quinoa. Quinoa now serves in these amazing vodka products. So for the indigenous communities in Bolivia, it's all about reconnecting with the earth. Right? It's all about caring for the land and preserving the land, which is not just some kind of environmental philosophy. It's a way of life. It's about cultural survival. It's about reconnecting and preserving their very identity as a community. So what they're doing with their fair trade premiums, now that they're getting a better price for the quinoa, they're investing in organic certification. They're reforesting, they're taking care of the land, they're training farmers in sustainable agriculture. And that's what fair trade is making possible. The third co-op is cooperative from Mexico, the Huatusco Coffee Co-op in central Mexico, in Veracruz. And I actually visited this co-op a few years ago. I took Perry Odak, who at the time was the CEO of Wild Oat Supermarkets. It was his first visit to Fair Trade Farms. And we spent several days in the highlands visiting coffee farmers. And you know, this is a co-op that's been around for quite a while. They've been plugged into fair trade for quite a while. They've done great stuff. They've built schools. Perry didn't want to see the schools. They built village health clinics. Perry didn't want to visit the health clinics. They have women's credit programs that are helping develop women's micro-enterprises. He didn't want to see that either. Perry Odak, this high-powered corporate CEO, as it turns out, grew up on a dairy farm in upstate New York. His daddy was a dairy farmer. And what Perry wanted to do is he wanted to go hang out with farmers. He just wanted to visit farmers in their homes and hear their stories and connect. So we did that. We didn't go visit the projects. We just went to farm after farm, and connected, drank their coffee, shook the hands of their kids. And there's a gentleman named Don Isidro Vasquez, third-generation coffee farmer, 2 acres of land, classic, typical Juan Valdez, the real Juan Valdez, the real coffee farmer. And Don Isidro, like so many in his generation, had only been able to study through 4th grade. His family was poor. By the time he was 10, he was in the fields. So he reads and writes, but he's never really had any education. It was foretold, it was always known he would be a coffee farmer. Well, Huatusco, his co-op, plugged into fair trade 15 years ago. They've been selling to great companies like FAIR, like FAIR.spirits, and they've been getting fair trade premiums. And as a result of that, Don Isidro was able to keep his kids in school. Again, something we take for granted. But all of his kids finished high school. All 6 of his kids finished high school. And 4 went on to college thanks to a scholarship program set up by the co-op with fair trade premiums. So imagine what that means for a man with a 4th grade education to see 4 of his 6 kids go on to college, become an accountant for the co-op, become a school teacher in the local high school, become an agronomist working for a local NGO. Imagine his pride. We were standing in the fields on a beautiful sunny day, and his coffee was shade grown and organic, and the sun was coming through the trees. It was an amazing scene. And I was translating from Peyote the story of Don Isidro and his family. And it was like, the skies open for Perry and his understanding of fair trade, but more importantly, of what he could do. And he had an experience. He had a moment. We got back in the car, we started driving back to the headquarters, and he said, I'm not paying fair trade on my walls. And I thought he was speaking metaphorically. But a month later, Wild Oats literally painted fair trade and the definition of it on every wall of every store across the land. And helped connect literally hundreds of thousands of consumers to this model. And for me, that in itself was a metaphor of what we can do. Each one of us. We're not all big corporate CEOs with lots of stores and millions of dollars at our disposal. But each of us has a voice. Each of us has the ability to vote with our dollars every time we go to the store, every time we go to a bar now. Dude, it's so cool. We have the ability to make a difference. By buying things that make a difference, by asking the stores that we visit, the bars that we visit, hey, do you have fair trade vodka? Hey, do you have fair trade coffee? We can lift our voices, we can make a difference. I used to say we can make a difference one cup at a time, but clearly my new line is we can make a difference one vodka at a time. So here's to all of you and your power to make a difference.